This is about a year ago. And I was like, okay, guys, I haven't seen any white feathers lately. I want to see some white feathers. And so I was looking everywhere and I'm not seeing any white feathers. I'll never forget. I come out of the acupuncture office and I'm looking in a different area. I'm looking down. It's like, well, are there any white feathers? Maybe I'll find a white feather here. I don't see any. So I was like, okay, whatever. Lo and behold, 2 seconds after that, I get a text and she sent a video with it. All of these white feathers in a row. I mean, the timing of it where I had just said, all right, there's no feathers here. I'm about ready to give up on you. And then literally seconds later, this comes through. And it was just this whole row of like 20 white feathers that she found along this path that she was walking in the park.
Welcome to Embodying You, a podcast of spiritual exploration where nothing is off limits. You'll hear raw, behind-the-scenes stories from people awakening to their soul's path and how they became the healers, mystics, and intuitives they are today. You'll also experience real-time intuitive sessions and healings where struggles transform into breakthroughs that you can bring into your own life. Along the way, you just might recognize yourself in the stories shared. This is Embodying You. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Embodying You. I'm Tiffany Hart, your host, and this week we have Lynn Chase here with us today. Lynn, would you like to say a hello?
I am so grateful to be here. Thank you so much. I just heard a fire engine in the background. Hopefully that didn't get picked up on your thing, but I think that the angels and the energetic beings are greeting us.
Yes.
Yeah, I can feel like that's strongly in the field.
Yeah, and I feel like that's yet another sign because just a little bit ago I had the same thing here, and you're in California, I'm in Oklahoma, so there's always the connection.
Right.
Well, so Lynn, I met Lynn last year I talk about it on the podcast. At the end, especially Soul to Soul Hour, it was called Come As You Are at first, and then it changed to Soul Hour, and now it has rebirthed in 2026 as Soul to Soul Hour. And so I met Lynn last year, and I remember one of the first times that she came into the gathering, that she was invited into our space, she started telling these stories of these synchronicities with feathers and all of these things. And she just has this amazing way of speaking. And then I learned she'd also been an actress. And so I'm going, well, no wonder, I loved hearing her stories. And back then I asked her then, will you come and be on my podcast? And here we are. It is April of 2026 and she is here. And she brought something very special this morning. We didn't know what we were going to talk about, but when we got on here, she said that she received the message about the energetic breadcrumbs that we follow, even when we don't know what's going to happen. If we follow the energetic breadcrumbs, all is revealed in time. So we're just going to free flow and see where that goes today. But before we do that, probably like me, you did not grow up believing in signs and synchronicities, or, you know what, I'm not going to speak for you, but most of what I do now, I did not grow up believing at all. And in fact, thought was crazy, quite crazy. So I would love for people to hear whatever you want to share about your story from where you once were to where you are now on your spiritual journey.
Would love to. So I grew up on a farm in New Jersey almost 68 years ago. My birthday is in a couple of weeks. And I was very isolated from the world because my father understood that TV was programming. So I spent a lot of time on my own. And I will say I was always interested in Ouija boards, and there were kind of weird things that used to happen with the Ouija boards. And I used to have these recurring dreams of witches chasing me at night. So I always got away, but they were definitely a part of my growing up. So, did the route of college and then moved to California and started working and really got sucked into the 3D world. And it wasn't until really in my 40s that I started I started really asking big questions, maybe late 30s, but really 40s, where I started just going, this world just does not make sense. It's not a part of, it doesn't coincide with what I'm feeling inside. And so really what I want to say is, I think all of us actually have superpowers and ways to access the energetic side of ourselves. Like we each have, like, one of my superpowers is claircognizance. I just know things. Like I don't hear voices much. I never see things at this point, and I never say never because you never know, but I know that my beings are there because of just a knowing that I have. And I think that part of the work that we each can do is to fortify and to grow, to expand in the certain directions of our magic. I just really, for me, magic is really just being willing to step into the world that we can't see.
Mm.
You know, sovereign with God, knowing that I am the God creator, and being able to have a foot or to move between the world of the unseen and the 3D programming world that we were all birthed into, right? So
Mm.
that's a little bit of my story. And the more that I learn, because I'm a constant learner, the less I realize that I know. I know nothing, right?
Yes.
I kind of have that attitude. It's like, okay, show me. I'm here. I am creator. Show me.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's,
that's one thing. I'm always willing to change my mind, and I'm
yes,
always willing to be wrong. And I'm not saying that's easy because I was taught to be right all the time. I was taught to be perfect and to know everything. But that's been huge for me. There's been very little. Well, I can honestly say now that there's nothing that I am like, no, I'm sticking to my guns on this. Mm-mm. Nope.
I love that.
Nope.
I love
Okay.
that.
I find myself wanting just to know a little bit more about what your background looked like. Like you mentioned something about beings around you. Who and what are you talking about? And when did you first start to notice that? And what was it like accepting that you had, I'm going to put in quotes, beings around you?
Okay. So there was most of the time when I first became aware, even though I had a little bit of a knowing of it, when I first became aware is when I would go to different shamans and have readings, people that didn't know me. And the first thing they would say is, "Oh my God, you've got this huge entourage around you.
Mm.
Are you aware that you are and that you do?" And I said, "Not really, but I can kind of feel them." But one of the first examples, and I don't think I've ever shared this story with you, is that, and this would have been almost 25 years ago. I was pregnant with my third child, and he was huge. He was much bigger than my first two. And I was driving in a loaner car, and I was only driving like 2 miles from a client's to my home to take one of the younger kids and take him to the daycare. And I wasn't going to put on my seatbelt. And I very distinctly heard this voice. It said, "Put on your seatbelt." And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't really put on your seatbelt.
Mm.
So I put it on, and lo and behold, on just a regular street, not on a freeway, there was someone pulled into our lane. I'm sorry, they turned into the oncoming traffic of which I was there. The person next to me hit the back of that car and slammed it into me head on crash.
Oof.
And if I had not, and as it was, the baby got smashed by the steering wheel, and the windshield cracked open my whole face. If I had not had that windshield on, there's a really good chance we would not have survived, because I at least, like, I couldn't be pushed out of the car. And I found out just a few months after that, when I did a session with one of my shaman friends, I saw this like face of a lion, and it
Mm.
was I came to found out it was Uriel. And I asked the person I was with, I was like, "What is that?" And she didn't know anything about this. And she said, "That's the person who told you to put on your seatbelt the day that you had the accident." And
Mm.
so that was a real, that was like the beginning of like, oh, there is something else that's going on around me. There is another world. I want to find out more. I am really interested in this. And since
Mm.
then, so like I said, that was 25 years ago. I was just getting ready to turn 43. And since then, I've had many interactions. I mean, well, I'll probably share a few more of the stories, but many interactions with my beings. They, as they say, they've not shown themselves to me physically yet,
Mhm.
but oh my goodness, they are there. They make me laugh. They play tricks on me. They they are definitely my little friends. Um, but yeah, that was really probably the first time where it was very obvious to me that I am surrounded by those that are supporting me in my journey.
Mhm.
You know.
There are a couple of things that I want to say from that. So one of them is whenever you touched on how they can be silly, basically,
Mm,
that's one of the things that when I started getting in the records and when I first started getting in the Akashic records, I had this practice of setting a timer for 10 minutes and just channeling. Just
mm,
I think I did this every morning for 30 days or something like that. It's part of what helped me trust so deeply what was coming through because, it was just coming through. I couldn't make it up. Thoughts would come out and then it'd catch up with my brain. You know what I mean? Well, not thoughts, but words would come out, then my brain would catch up. It was like that. And one of the things I realized because they would be so silly, maybe they would sing songs or they would be like, "What are you thinking you're doing?" Or they would just do all these. And and as my body moved when I was speaking it out into my tape recorder, I could just feel it.
mhm,
And it's part of what let me know that we are not meant to be so serious in life. We're actually meant to have fun. I mean, if our spirit guides, and I would even say angels sometimes, although for me, when I know I'm speaking with an angel, I don't get this as much. But with light beings, whether it's well, guides can be anything, right? But again,
yeah.
I do want to say on here to make sure that you don't need to know who you're connecting with. Just
Mm,
like Lynn said, she doesn't see them. I don't see mine either. And I actually have never really felt the need to learn names
mhm,
or figure out who's with me all the time, who's not, because guides and angels and all that, the way I see it, it's a revolving door. There are some guides, whether it's animal guides, spirit guides, that are there all the time.
mhm,
But then I feel like they shift in and out for whatever you need at that time of your life. And so just the way that they can Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just saying that with the angels, I haven't had as much silliness, although there's still all this
mm,
love there. And there can be a lot of like, I am very serious with the angels that have come to me, but the guides, which again are just like light beings, like I make sure I set the intention that I'm connecting with light beings, with beings that are of the highest vibration, of the highest light, because we can, without knowing it, we can channel darker energy. So I do want to say that it's nothing to be scared of. It's just something to be aware of. And as long as you have that intention set, you're not doing that. And the reason why I say that is when I very first started channeling, there was this character that would come in. He reminded me of Tony the Tiger.
mm.
And when I look back at that character now, I realize that was not a light being. He was a lot of fun, would say a lot of silly things, not a light being.
Interesting.
So I didn't realize that I would be talking about that, but I just want to say that it's just about setting intentions,
Yeah.
knowing who's given you guidance, and enjoying the fun times.
That's a really
Enjoying the fun
important
times.
point. I'm glad you brought that up because it really is an important thing to be aware of who we are communing with, right? Especially when those of us who don't have the ability to see that, you
Mhm.
know. And also it's interesting that you mentioned that the angels have a tendency to be serious because the voice that I heard that told me to buckle up was very
Mhm.
serious. It was
Mhm.
not comical, oh, you should buckle up or whatever. It was put your seatbelt on. And I was I was squawking because the baby was so big and the seatbelt was so constrictive. It didn't feel good, but it was very direct.
Mhm.
And then when it became known what the reason was for that. But yeah, it's interesting. I have another really funny story if you want a funny, and I think it's interesting that you bring up, oh, sometimes the comedians cannot necessarily be your guides. I think these were okay. So this would have been 2017. And I've lived my life really pretty clean. I don't drink any alcohol anymore, but I didn't drink much even back in the day. I didn't do drugs, and I didn't know an awful lot of things. And so this would have been April 20th, 2017. So 420, which didn't mean
Mhm.
anything to me, but so I was my kids, my two boys, one of them was a sophomore in high school and one was a senior. And I was getting ready to go see a client that morning. And so I was cleaning out the track bag because he had come in and just plopped everything down, cleaning out the track bag. And I saw some brownies and they were like sitting there. And I'm like, what in the world does he just leave these out for? And so I was like, okay, I didn't have any breakfast. I'm a little hungry. I'll take a little sugar in. So I gobbled them down. You can see probably where this is going. Okay. And they were like, okay, they're not even that sweet. Okay, weird. They taste a little weird. So I get to my clients, and about 45 minutes later, all of a sudden, I start feeling like I am gonna just faint and I'm gonna die. And I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know. It was my client's home, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I just feel horrible. I think you need to call the paramedics. And all of a sudden, my son calls me, Daniel, and he goes, Mom, did you clean out my track bag? Did you eat those brownies in there? And I said, yes. Am I going to die? What was in them? He goes, they were laced with weed, and they had.
Thank God he told you the truth.
He said they had so much in them. I go, what's going to happen to me? He goes, you're going to be down and out for several hours because they're really super strong. He goes, I just wanted to make sure the dog didn't eat them. I was like, thanks a lot. You know? But so he goes, I brought him home for Eddie, his brother. And so I was like, okay, at least I know I don't have to go to the paramedics. So then, of course, I had to tell my client, she was right there when I was talking on the phone. And I was like, do you have a place where I can just lay down? Because it was in her home. So she took me over to this sofa. I laid there for a little while. And finally, I literally crawled to the bathroom, literally crawled and threw it all up. And so then I felt much, much, much better. And I called my son afterwards and he goes, how are you even standing? And I said, because I threw it up. I got it out of me. And then he goes, you
Uh-huh.
know what today is, don't you? And I said, no, I don't know what today is. And then that's when they said, oh, it's 420. That's like National Weed Day or something. And um, so I was like, oh, my little guides just had some big L fun with me. Let me tell you, my kids and one of the things I love about me is that I clear any shame or guilt immediately.
Mm.
Like I don't sit in the, oh my God, I don't want anybody to hear that story. I am
Yes.
able to share who I am. They're very transparent. And my kids know that about me. So they still will tell me to this day, oh, we got so much mileage on that story of what you did that day. And I was like, oh my God, my angels were definitely having a field day with me. So now you've brought up the question of was it something that it was perhaps dark energies? And honestly, I'm not sure. I like to think it was them because they play little tricks on me all the time. Like they'll do little things. And I like to think it's just them having fun because I have a tendency to be too serious. And I think
Mm.
they just are like, girl, we got to loosen you up a little. We're going to do this and you're going to laugh about it and it's going to be funny. But yeah, that was one of the funnier tricks they played on me.
I actually love that you brought that up as far as what I said and potentially someone tying the comedy into a dark energy. So I do want to say that. Nope, I definitely do not mean that. I do not mean that. But here's what I think I want to say about about the dark energies. And I've said this before, and of course, my cat walks in right when I'm about to say this. So, and some of my clients have heard me say this. On the one hand, dark energies are to be taken seriously, right? You know, whenever they come in, they're exaggerating something for us, they're showing us something.
Mm.
And they're showing us something to heal. But what I say is, I used to be very, well, for one thing, I used to believe they were not a thing. They were not real. If I just think high and bright enough or whatever, that I wouldn't ever be affected by them if they were even real. And then I switched where I started learning about how they were real. I took a deep dive into them. I mean, I learned about the different types. I learned all sorts of stuff. And then I realized the person who was teaching me was actually deeply infiltrated by dark forces, by dark energies. And so that was a whole thing of really, you know, switching from, oh my gosh, how cool is it that I learned all of this information from someone directly working with them, and have reached such an empowerment level so quickly, and have let go of the fear that I had about dark energies. There's still a little bit left. I can feel it in certain areas. And so I'm really glad that this was brought up because, oh, I know what I was going to say about the cat. Apologies. I feel like I'm not quite tracking today, but it's okay. It is the energy of today. For those who are listening, it is April 17th. It is the new moon in Aries. And now that I'm paying a little more attention, I'm like, ooh, I feel it. But with my cat, one of the things that I liken dark energies to is my cat when he used to attack me in the middle of the night. He's just a cat living a cat life, doesn't know really what he's doing. He's living in the present moment. He just knows, like, he feels it. He feels the urge to attack me in the middle of the night for his own reasons, to give me my own lessons, right? That's how I view dark energies now. They may not know what they're doing. They may not know that they're helping you on your soul path, but when they come, what I would say, what feels like it wants to be said right now, is look at the underlying reason they might be there. Clear that. And then maybe you can ask your angels to help you clear the energies or whatever it is, or go to someone who knows how to do it. That just wanted to be said for a moment. And to be honest, I'm not sure why it went in that direction, especially when we were talking about comedy, like how guides can be so funny, and they can.
Oh, yeah. But I have a question for you, Tiffany.
Okay.
Do you think there is a chance? Because I also have a kitty that's like yours. She's sleeping now by me, but she will oftentimes, like, if I'm upset or if I think there's energies that are around that are not necessarily that could be nefarious, she'll come and sit on me. And then she will come and I feel like she dissipates the energies for me. So do you think there's a possibility that the attacking is just your kitty wanting to get rid of some energies that is it a girl or a boy?
Boy. Mm-hmm.
That he feels on you? Do you think that's a possibility?
100%. Potentially not all the time, but when he was attacking me at night, it was when I was learning about dark energies and how to clear them from that person. And that person taught very complicated, long ways to clear those energies, and you were always looking for them, which, hello, law of focus, right? When you're law of focusing on things. And so I believe that it was his way of trying to at night, like, say if there was something happening, because I also don't see them. I believe that one day I will, but I also don't see things around me. I have a feeling, or I have a knowing, but also I know when I'm ready. I think that's one thing that we can kind of forget. Like, when we work with someone who's an energy healer or a shaman or something like that, they are there to be tuned into you and what's going on with your energy. Mm-hmm. When we're just living our normal everyday human lives, I'm not constantly looking for, do I have something around me or on me or whatever. It's when life brings me something and I go, okay, like there was one day I kept being mad. Like my mind just kept jumping around to different people. Like, I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you. Arguing in my head, telling stories in my head. And I thought, oh, I've got a dark energy on me. Okay, all right. What are you trying to show me? Like asking God, what are you trying to show me,
Right.
God?
Right.
And then clearing it. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I love that. And also, I think sometimes those of us, especially that have expansive auras and that have an openness and a willingness to be on the other side, we also can tune into, without even realizing it, the collective trauma and
Mm,
the collective, right? And I think sometimes when I am in that space, and then I'll have like another girlfriend say, who's similar to me, she'll say, God, I was feeling that way too. And then I go, okay, I think there's something maybe in the collective that I want to look at. But the other question, or the
yeah.
other thing that I was going to mention is, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but there are times when I have met some really dark entities in my dreams that I've been
Mm,
asked to, that I've come up against, and that I have fought them. And it's super scary, but I also think it's part of my tests to see,
mm,
are you willing to stand there and be confronted by something that is not, clearly not a good, a good energy, and
mhm,
how do you handle it? I think we're always being tested to see how much more can creator bring through by how do I handle what I'm going through right now. And that's one of the ways that I
mm.
feel like I get tested is in my dreams, in my dream world, which feels like it's more the real
Yeah.
world some days than living, right? Than being awake. So
Yeah, yeah. No, because really we're spirits in a human body.
right.
And so truly, I mean, I often say the dream world is probably more real than this, right? I mean, we're kind of
Right.
living in the Truman Show. You're living in the Lynn Show. I'm in the Tiffany Show.
Exactly.
And so dreams are not currently, they're not one of my strongest gifts. And
Mm,
so I don't have that, but I have a client who does. She very much does things in her dreams.
yeah.
And I just think it's fascinating because one of the things that I've wondered is where is the subconscious? We all know that on some level when we sleep, our subconscious processes the information from the day, categorizes it, says, I don't need you. You stick around. So I've often wondered where is the line between the subconscious settling itself while we sleep and the other world?
Mm,
Or are we actually processing it in the quantum?
mm. I think it can be that, a lot of times, I think a lot of times for me, that it is the subconscious, um, processing things.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I mentioned that when I was a child, I had these recurring dreams with witches and demons, chasing me. And then I kind of got through that. And then I used to have a recurring dream. Oh gosh, this was probably 10, 15 years ago, of there being a horrific, I was in a space where everyone was displaced, like there had been a horrible thing that had happened with mother nature, either a horrible earthquake or some kind of, disaster. And I was always going around helping people to, to get settled in a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have not had that one lately, and so I feel it's either that I have processed that and that I've learned what I needed to process from that, or that we've skipped timelines and that that's not going to happen any longer,
Mm.
right? Because we can
Yeah.
change anything. This is
Mm-hmm.
why I'm very careful with the thoughts that I think about, because I don't want to add anything to the negative energy. There's already enough on the planet, and there are so many of us that are choosing to sit in the higher vibration, that I believe we can make changes just from that,
Mm.
right?
Yes. So then let me ask you this, because when people hear that, I know when I first heard it, I would take the negative thought that would come up and go, no, no, see you later.
Mm,
See you later. And I thought that I was just whoop, lifting it up off of me. But instead, I realized through so part of the energetic work that I do is sometimes when I'm led to, I will find a trapped emotion or a trapped belief, and I can go in and I can also muscle test using my subconscious to say, or I can just ask intuition, but like, what age was this trapped? Right.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
there's a lot trapped in ages, I'm 44 right now, in ages 41, 42. And I'm
Wow.
going, but I thought I was doing so good. But it ended up, I was trapping some of that because I was trying to
Mhm.
stay positive as I was learning these spiritual truths that everybody is like we're all one. And
Mhm.
everybody that's bringing us triggers or traumas or anything like that is just a mirror for us.
Mhm.
And so I wasn't fully processing my negative emotion. So, how would you tell someone who hears that? How do they process the negative emotion while still staying in a high vibration? How do you do that?
So that's such a great point that you bring up. And yes, there is always going to be those waves of negative and positive. And what I usually do is, because I don't want to push away anything that might be part of me that I might be processing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will do is I will ask the light to come in and to help alchemize whatever is there. Because let me tell you, I I okay, so I've also been doing shadow work for about 25 years. Like, this was right around the time that I had that accident, was a time when my whole being was like, it was catapulted physically and energetically. And so I
Mm-hmm.
started doing shadow work, and it literally saved my life, because I couldn't understand why I had made so many of the choices I'd made up until that point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And if I couldn't understand it, I felt like I was in this free fall. And so, being in and doing the shadow work, what I have come to understand is that my willingness to feel my dark energies and to actually be willing to hold them. I love to always use the seesaw effect. Okay. So I was never willing to, um, if I'm not willing to go out on the seesaw and feel the really dark parts of me, that seesaw is not going to be able to feel the really light parts of me. I have to be willing to go out on both ends. I can't just be, oh, I just want to be the little love and light. That's the only energy I want to have. I want to have every tool in my toolbox to be able to use. And sometimes, and so I shouldn't even really use the word dark energies. It's just, it's just a darkness. It's the part of me that could be, um a witch, the part of me that can be a someone who is not kind, someone who can be, um the part of me that is, um shameful, that is slutty, that is like, all of these pieces of me are actually a part of who I am, as being a part of everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
this kind of brings up a little story. Again, did not know this was going to come up, but one of the things I have loved about shadow work is to really understand how it works. And so I'm going to tell just a quick story of that I learned when I was starting to study it. And I'm trying to remember, this was not Debbie Ford's story. That's who I studied with, but it was John someone. I can look it up at some point. But
Mellencamp, John Mellencamp. No, I'm just kidding. He's a
no,
singer.
no, it was not him. But it was a great example that he gave. I think it's a book called Love and Awakening. So his story
Mm-hmm.
was, we all come down here as castles, amazing castles with hundreds of doors, and every door is open. And the minute we come down into our bodies, very, very soon, we will get parents, we will have religion, we will have teachers going, don't be a piggy. And so we go, don't take that last cookie. We go, oh my gosh, I'm not supposed to be a piggy. So we close that door. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're dressed very provocatively. So we close that door. Oh, you shouldn't cry. Big girls don't cry. So we close that door. And before you know it, without realizing it, we have gotten to an age where so many of the doors in our castle are closed. And we're walking
Mm-hmm.
in hallways. And so we don't have access to those feelings. So if I'm not willing to be a piggy, then I'm not really willing to be the opposite of piggy or whatever that is, one who grabs and loves to share, right? And so the
Mm.
whole idea behind shadow work and the way that I love to understand it is that I want to have all the doors to my castle open. It doesn't mean I'm going to use piggy. It doesn't mean I'm going to use witch. You can substitute that with a B. But I want to be able to have that it doesn't mean I'm going to use liar, but I want to be able to have that at my discretion. I want to be able to have that as one of the tools, because when I do have that as one of the tools, then I become whole. And that's part of, I think, really an important piece of being a creator, is to
Mhm.
really know that I am everything. I am everything, and I get to choose. It's that story of the white wolf, black wolf, that the Dakota Indians say a lot of times, that you've got to feed both wolves or one of them will take
Mhm.
over, right?
Ooh, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but it was
I have.
yeah, it's a great story, and it's a very similar thing. I want to be able to. Okay, so I'll share another story. Um, when I first moved to LA, and I used to see prostitutes on street corners, I would be very judgmental of them, like very judgmental. And that's when we're judgmental, when we get triggered by something, that's when we know we still have that as a shadow, that is not something that we have accepted within ourselves. And and so I ended up in a marriage where there were lots of things that I did that were against what I really felt I wanted to do. And when I one day realized, oh my gosh, like I am acting as a prostitute, not in the same sense of the word as the women and men that I used to see on the street corners of Los Angeles, but in a different way. And then like literally, I broke down. I screamed and cried. I was sick to myself, to my stomach for days. But once I alchemized and healed that part of me and allowed that part of me, the ones on the street corner, I was like, there was such an empathy and such a love that I was able to have for every single person in the way they show up, because we don't know their story. We don't know what they came here to learn, right? We don't know what they came here to explore. And someone very recently said to me in a class, don't don't really say I'm healing, because there's nothing wrong with me exactly the way I am. Could you instead say, I'm exploring? And I
Mhm.
really thought, wow, that's great. I'm not healing. I am the perfect God fractal as I am right now, right here in this moment. And I'm exploring, because isn't that what we're here to do?
Yes, I love that. I think the word that I use for myself a lot, it's still a explo, but it's experiment. It
Yeah.
still has the X in front of it, but is experiment. And I got that language from human design. I'm a generator type, and they call it the human design experiment, or at least the person I learned from, Emma Dunwoody, calls it the human
Mm,
design experiment. And I love that, because when you're just experimenting with life and you're just curious about how am I meant to move through the world, and how am I meant to uncover the real me?
mm,
Because to me, that's what it really is. That's what it really
right.
is. We're just covered up by
Yes.
ideas and programs and beliefs.
Closing our doors, right, along the way.
Mhm.
And you're right.
Yeah.
What I want to do is discover, who really am I with all my doors open?
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I did look up the book. It is Love and Awakening by
Yeah.
John Wellwood.
Well, thank you.
By John Wellwood, in case that hits somebody of interest. And one of the things that I'll say, and then it does feel like we're going to get into, see, this is what I always go with what God wants. I just,
Yeah.
we just go with it. We thought we were just going to be talking about energetic breadcrumbs to fall in, and here we
And I
are
still,
talking about
yeah, we still
dark
have both good
energies.
stories on that, right?
Yeah, like dark energies and shadow. But the thing is, all of it, it all is all of it, because
Yeah.
we are one with all of it. We are also one with the dark energies. And so they're telling me to go back to the cat thing, that I might not have been clear about that. My cat attacking me in the middle of the night was just a cat doing cat things. Did I get mad at him? Did I blame him for a while? Yes. Did I do energetic work on myself so that that would stop? I did. And then in the end, it was the most simple thing after months of this, months and months of this, that I needed to do to get him to fully stop. All of a sudden, it occurred to me, just blow on him. He never did it again. You know, he hates being blown on. So anyway, but until then, I cleared energy. I figured things out. I went for a while where he didn't attack me when I was doing different energetic work. And then I stopped and then he attacked me again because I wasn't getting it. So it's just a cat doing cat things.
Great.
Dark energies are also a part of God. They do not remember that they are a part of God. They are also a part of us. And you might also call them shadow pieces of us, because they are here doing their work to exaggerate something, a feeling within us, like trapped anger that I had. Like, I did not realize how often I was gaslighting myself when I was truly angry about something someone was doing. Now, I still say that even that part of me even saying the words that we understand of I was angry about something that someone was doing. Well, they wouldn't have even been doing that thing if I didn't need a special way for that trapped emotion, that trapped feeling, that trapped belief, whatever it is, to come out of my body. Why? Some might say, but why? Why would God want us to be triggered and for us to like look at things and feelings? Like, what does it matter? Because we all have lived our lives in a very specific way. And now, if you're listening to this podcast, you're on a journey of uncovering the true layers of yourself, your true soul self, your true soul mission. And you cannot do that without everything. You cannot do that with everything that's covering up the real you. That being said, every single thing you have experienced has been on purpose, because if you're listening to this, you're attracted to this because of your frequency level. And so what that means is you are here specifically, probably you didn't even have to come back to the planet for any kind of soul lesson. You are here to gain knowledge as a human so you can go forth and help others. Yes. How can we help people with something we've never felt before? I'm not saying you have to experience what your clients experience or what your friends experience or your kids, but how can we have empathy if we don't even know what it feels like to have that thing?
Right.
And so I want to go back for a second to shadow. Actually, there's two little things coming in. One very quick one is I have a friend really going through it right now. Her nervous system is shot. Every time she starts to settle, something else happens. And there are legitimate things happening. And April 1st, my goodness, April has been Apriling. I've been saying this. We are being asked to upgrade and up level so quickly to help the planet because we are in the middle of this huge shift. And April 1st was the day that I almost got attacked by a neighbor's dog. And I'm talking every step backwards I took, it took a step forward in a crouched position, teeth bared. I legitimately was like, I remember thinking in my head, whoa, am I really about to be attacked right now? Like, I remember this. And then other things like happened. It was like boom, 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 boom. But what it did, it set my nervous system so off base. It has not been that wrecked. Honestly, I don't even, maybe 15, 17 years, because I didn't remember what it felt like. I couldn't empathize with her or with clients that might come to me for that. And then guess what happened? Because my nervous system was so shot, I was led to someone who I had no idea that this was what the program was about. It's Aisha Durrani. If you're interested, it's called Rich and Resourced. I'm sure that if you messaged her, you could buy it. She is Oath Oracle on Instagram, but it's called Rich and Resourced. In the welcome video, I just kept hearing Rich and Resourced. Well, in the welcome video, it's all about the nervous system. And she gives very simple, easy practices for the nervous system, like different ways to rock your body,
Mm.
that it calms the nervous system in a way that I've never learned before. Never learned before. And now I have that not only to bring to myself, but to my children and to my clients
Yes.
and my friends and family and whoever else.
If we can trust, and this takes it a little bit back to what we said in the very beginning, if we can trust that I can't see the path, but I will always feel the energetic breadcrumbs, the energetic nudges toward a certain thing, even if I don't know what it means in that now moment, right? But to be able
Yes.
to trust that, to be
Yes.
able to know, okay, I don't know why I'm supposed to do this, but I'm supposed to do it. And so to
Yes.
allow ourselves that level of awareness and trust in ourselves, that's a biggie. That's a real biggie. You did not have any
Mhm.
idea that this
Yeah.
was going to be something you needed to know. And it was the same with all of the shadows that I've uncovered. One of the other ones
Mhm.
was white trash that I uncovered. That was a big one. One of the other ones was, being able to have a compassion for people of all ages and sizes,
Mhm.
and to not in order to be able to have compassion for that, I had to feel it myself.
Yeah,
So
this is one thing that I say all the time. If we are triggered by anything, whether it's by someone who's being rude, like a rude cashier was one that used to trigger the absolute shit out of me.
mhm.
If we're triggered by anything, it's showing us something unhealed within us. And once we heal it within us, it will turn into compassion.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it has to be linear, because what's funny is for years I just felt compassion if that would happen. And I thought, wow, this is so cool. I've healed this. But then within like a couple months ago or something like that, I found myself feeling rejection, which came up as
Mhm.
anger in the moment when there
Mhm.
was a cashier who was just very like, I don't really care that I'm checking you out, like not really paying attention to me as she was doing things. And I just thought, wow. And I found myself back in that old space. And then I remembered, oh, okay, this is how it used to feel, except it's not as bad right now. And I recognize, okay, wait a minute, what am I feeling right now? Oh, I'm feeling rejected. Oh, and that has been a major theme for me. Some of there are people in my life right now that if they could just only understand how much I love them, they would
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
But like the dynamic right now, unfortunately, is that in my perception, they've chosen to believe things about me that aren't true, and
Mhm.
have chosen to believe that I think in a way that I do not.
Mhm.
And that's okay for whatever the reason is. They need that for their own dynamic. Okay, that's fine.
I chuckled just now. Let me just interject so you know why I chuckled. Because we're talking and I'm thinking, the muggles are going to listen to this and they're going to say, what are these people talking about? Because we have a language
Mm,
that, and it doesn't mean we are any better whatsoever. We're just living kind of in a different space, right? And
yeah.
so that was why I chuckled, because like, who goes to the grocery store? I would also do the same thing. Like, oh, this person's triggering me. So what is that bringing up in me? But like most people would just be like, curse them and kind of go on their day,
Yep.
right? But
Yeah.
instead of understanding that it's actually a message for me.
Hmm.
And what my teacher, Debbie Ford, used to say, she goes, if you're triggered, they're just the pizza delivery person. It's a message for you,
There
right?
you go.
They
I
are just
love that.
pizza delivery person. They are
Yes.
just showing you, because the other option, what she would call, if you're not triggered, you are simply informed. I'm
Mm.
informed, and then I'm informed that this gal is having a really hard day as the cash register person. And
Mm.
could I perhaps give her compassion? Could I give her a smile? Could I do something that perhaps makes her day better? So it's that, like, that gives me information as to where that piece of me is how I react to her. But yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. The pizza delivery person. She's not like invested in making your life miserable.
Yeah.
She's just there to bring a message. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I
yeah.
actually love, love, love that analogy. I love that analogy. And the thing is, there have been times, and the way that I can feel energy now, I didn't used to be able to. And so now I can feel. when energy comes through and I do something, like I cut someone off. This has probably been a year ago, but I don't speed up to get in front of anyone anymore like I used to. I just don't. I just don't feel like the need to. Well, I did that this one day. And as soon as I did it, it almost felt like it was in slow motion. And as I was doing it, and after I did it, I was like, why did I do that? And I heard because they needed that. And I was like, okay. Like I was sent there in that moment to be
Wow.
their trigger. And now like I'm going to go a little more into like fun stories a little bit, because we were talking about energetic breadcrumbs and how sometimes we don't know why something is happening.
Right.
So this story wants to be like backed up a little bit. So it's going to have something to do with thinking I was taking a wrong turn or missing a turn, and then it being revealed why it happened. But years and years, well, actually in 7th grade, oh my gosh. And I'm realizing too, the episode that's going to come out right before this one, I end up talking about my skin and my journey with my skin. So now I understand why this is coming in this way, why I'm being asked to back up to this part of the story. So in the 7th grade, I didn't ever get to have name brand clothing. And at that time, Doc Martens were the thing. Couldn't get them. I go to a department store called Venture one day, and lo and behold, they have knockoff Doc Martens. And I look at them and I was like, please, 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 can I get those? And so I can. I go to school and oh my gosh, I'm so proud of my new Doc Martens. And I'm guessing this girl and I weren't that nice to each other in class. I really don't know. But something happened in class where we were all talking and she popped off to me and was like, yeah, nice Doc Martens or nice knockoffs or something like that, right? She made some comment to me. And I looked at her and I go, well, at least I'm not a pizza face. And she had acne all over her face. And I will never forget the look on her face when I said that. I felt bad immediately. Fast forward to when my daughter is in Mother's Day out at a church, like a Mother's Day out thing. She is a mom there bringing her kid. I see her now and then. We don't say anything to each other, but I think to myself, I'm going to apologize to her. I'm going to apologize to her. I never do. I didn't have the guts. I was afraid. I didn't know how she was going to react. So let's way fast forward to, I had to deliver something to the courthouse for filing. And I was doing a voice message to a friend and I missed one exit. And I was like, what? Why did I miss that exit? I literally didn't even see it. Then I missed another one. And I'm like, what the actual hell? Like, I know exactly where I'm going. I've done this trip a million times. I just did not see it. And I said in the voice message, I know this is for a reason. I know this is for a reason. Well, there is a woman who, say this in a way where I make sure I'm not adding anyone, because again, this is about me, not about other things. There is a woman who I will just say, I'm not proud of my part in breaking up her relationship. And I had also always told myself, if I ever see her again, I will apologize to her. Well, I already felt the regret, the breadcrumb that was there, the regret of not apologizing to this other person.
Yeah.
So when I get to the courthouse, and I have to go pay in the file room. And I usually don't have to pay, but this time I did. I am right next to her. And I know she sees me, but she just pretends like she doesn't, keeps talking. Then I go for filing. She's right beside me again. And I'm just like, what are the chances? There are 21, potential windows, but she's right next to me again. And so I leave and I'm shaking. And I tell God, there were 2 ways she could have exited. I tell God, I say, okay, I don't know. What do I do? And so I ended up just going to this one exit. I picked an exit and I stood outside of it. And I said, okay, I'm going to sit out here for 10 minutes. And if she comes out, I will apologize to her. And if she doesn't come out in 10 minutes, then okay. Within that 10 minutes, here she comes. I stop her. We end up having a 30-minute conversation, a beautiful one, where I apologize to her for my part in it. She also got to say what she wanted to say and probably ask me questions like, because I got to tell her, this is one thing that felt really good to me. I got to tell her, he did the same thing to me. And she did say to me, like, well, what did you expect? She said it very nicely, but she was like, well, what did you expect? And I said, I guess I thought I was different. That thing that we say. So it was such a beautiful conversation for me. I hope it was for her too. But it was through these delays and the old energetic breadcrumb that made me this time have the bravery to speak to her and apologize.
Well, and if you hadn't missed those exits,
yep,
you wouldn't have been there. And you're like, why am I missing this exit? But Spirit had a plan. Wow.
What comes up for you? What are some of your energetic breadcrumb stories?
One of the ones that comes to mind is, we've talked about this before, is that I don't see my beings and my support team, but I know they're there and I talk to them a lot. I engage them a lot. I will send them, it's like, this person needs some support today. Can you, like, a few of you just go to that person and help them out today. So I will engage them, because what I have learned is that if I don't speak to them, if any of us don't speak to and engage our beings, they can be standing there watching us drown. And if we don't say help, they're not going to do anything.
There's free will. We do have to ask in some form or fashion for help, even if it's in our head.
Right. And so one of the ways they do show themselves to me all the time is with white feathers. I get white feathers all over the place, in places that it's like my closed office when I know it hasn't been open to anything, and all of a sudden a white feather will show up right there, on my desk or on the floor right by my desk. So there was this one day, this is about a year ago, and I was like, okay, guys, I haven't seen any white feathers lately. I want to see some white feathers. Like, where's the white feathers? Come on, show me that you're here. And so I was looking everywhere, and I'm going everywhere, and I'm not seeing any white feathers. So I'm like, okay, I come out of, and I'll never forget, I come out of the acupuncture office, and I'm looking in a different area. I'm looking down. It's like, well, are there any white feathers? Maybe I'll find a white feather here. And I'm talking out loud. I don't see any. So I was like, okay, whatever. And lo and behold, 2 seconds after that, I get a text from a very close, like-minded girlfriend in Colorado. And she sent a video with it. She's like, Lynn, I just was doing my walk in the park, and look at what I found. All of these white feathers in a row. And I thought immediately of you. And she took a video of it and sent it to me. And I was like, okay, angels, beings, thank you. And so part of that lesson for me was to not always have it in my head how I want the picture to look, right? I wanted to find the feathers. And so they were like, no, we're not going to show you the feathers, but we're going to send you. And I mean, the timing of it, where I had just said, all right, there's no feathers here. I'm about ready to give up on you. And then literally seconds later, this comes through from a girlfriend who said, I just look at all these white feathers. And it was just this whole row of like 20 white feathers that she found along this path that she was walking in the park. So she sent me the whole video. And so I had a good chuckle. And I thought, okay, you guys are just trying to show me that, it doesn't always come out the way that I ask for it, but you're here and I appreciate you and I thank you. So that was a great learning lesson for me, because it also, it's kind of like the one that you were talking about, where why did I miss these exits? And you didn't know, well, why did my angels not show me any of the feathers myself? Why did I not find them myself? But maybe they wanted me to understand the web that we live in. right? The
Ooh.
connection, the fact that perhaps even my antenna were putting out into the universe, I want to see feathers, and that it doesn't always have to be answered right in my now present moment, but that it can be picked up by someone else and brought to me in that way, right?
Yeah. In fact, I think I got pretty lucky in that I learned very early in my playing around with signs and synchronicities kind of thing to ask for it and then let it go. Like to
Mm,
not look for it. And and even if I don't get it, just be like, all right, fine. All right, fine. Whatever. It's okay. Kind of like what it sounds like you did. You were like, all right, well, whatever. They're not here.
eventually.
And then you get a text. Yeah, it for whatever reason it brings up vultures have I used to be scared of vultures, but vultures have actually had a really big part in being there when I'd had a big moment, like a big awakening into a new gift. So,
Mm,
for instance, there was an Airbnb that I stayed at the weekend that I first got in the Akashic Records. And as I was pulling in, there were three vultures standing
ooh,
on a post. And I stood there looking at them and I go, oh, okay, three vultures. All right. And I had my animal power book
mhm,
by Allison Charles, which I love. And I read, and one of the things it says is they can be there for psychic awakenings along with other things. But when you talk about finding the feather, there was another time a year or two later that I was again coming back from some Airbnb and I decided to let intuition guide. So I play with that. I've played with that for years. When I take walks, I would ask intuition, which way do I turn in a
mhm.
neighborhood? I mean, really cool stuff has happened from doing that. And most of the time, I'm just taking a walk. But sometimes really cool things happen, like finding an organic cafe that was right by my place that also, oh, by the way, is owned by someone who's a friend of a friend. And in fact, her friend came to my house for a full moon ceremony once. It was like a what? Totally different city, all that. But anyway, so I'm letting intuition take me on this drive. And I see, as I'm driving on this country road, I see, I don't even know how many vultures, just all these vultures in the road, and they go, wah, and they scatter. And I hear, stop and get a feather. And at first I was like, no, 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 no. And I decide to listen. So I pull off to the side of the road and I go out, and the vultures are just in the trees. I mean, they are scared to death of me. They're in the trees, they're watching me. I've never felt so watched. It was a bit eerie, but yet was not. Because they were scared to death of me. If I even got anywhere, if I got within like they would fly off to another tree, right? I mean, they were scared to death of me. Huge birds though. But so I'm walking and I go over to the area where they had been eating, and I'm just kind of looking, trying not to look at the animal that's on the ground, but trying to just look, and is there a feather? And I go, okay, well, there's no feather. You know what? Maybe I actually wasn't supposed to find a feather. Maybe they were actually just trying to get me to stop. Maybe I was just supposed to stop for a moment
Mm,
for whatever the reason is. Like maybe. As I'm walking back on the other side of the road, there's a single vulture feather sticking straight up out of the ground. And I just started laughing and I go, oh, okay. Okay. In fact, it's one of these. I think it's this one. I
mm.
think. But
Wow.
I keep like, there's an owl feather I found somewhere else. It's like, I just keep little
I
feathers.
have a collection of feathers too. You should see my bucket. It's just, it's like I have it right
I
over here in my hallway. It's got a gazillion feathers in it, all different types. So,
love it.
yeah.
And I didn't used to keep that stuff.
Yeah. No, I didn't either. Wow. I love that. And it's interesting. I think when we can be willing to have an awareness and an openness to the other side. I had an experience last year it changed me. And I think I might have spoken about it a little bit on Soul Hour, but it was clearly one of those initiations that I was supposed to go through, but yet I had no idea that I was supposed to go through it. So I had, uh, we had my 19-year-old cat, and my daughter had the sister, and the sister had died 6 months earlier, but she had picked them out when she was like 10 years old. So she had the girl and I had the boy. It was Duke. And Duke and I had a really special relationship. There was a there was a presence about this cat. He was a long-haired, dark gray cat, and he was really, he would be almost like a king kind of a figure. And I knew that he was starting to get ready to go, after his sister passed. His sister passed in August, and Duke started kind of going downhill. And this would have been so. Uh, he passed away a year ago, February 10th. So that previous autumn, he was getting ready to pass, and I just said to him, I said, Duke, I said, do me a favor. I said, please hang on for all the kids, because they would gather at Christmas. Hang on so the kids can all say goodbye to you. And then as soon as you want to go in January, I will be there to support you, to let you go. And so he did. He hung on. He got a little better. As soon as January came, I had my partner Harold dig a hole in the backyard, because I knew I had promised him that whenever he wanted to go. So he dug the hole in, the beginning of January. And I could see that he was getting harder and harder for him. And he just didn't want to eat. And even the vet was like, do you want me to come over and we'll give him some more pills or whatever? And I said, no, I promised him that if he hung on until December, that I would honor when he wanted to go. And what I wanted to do, I didn't want to have a vet put him to sleep, even coming to the home and do it, which is how we've done every other animal. Never been able to just let an animal pass. And so all of a sudden, the weekend in February, I could tell, oh my God, this is it. He's going to go. And I started crying. I called my daughter. It was so sad. I was just grieving. I knew he was on his way out. And I was actually kind of hoping that, he would pass that weekend, because Harold was in town. He had to leave on a business trip on Sunday night. And I was like, and I don't want to do this by myself, but he did not. And he stayed awake. I laid with him on the floor through most of Sunday night into Monday. And then he was still alive. And so then I decided, okay, I'm going to take him outside, because he loves the outside. It's like one of his favorite places to be. He used to be an outside cat for years and years, until he got to be much older and much sicker. And so I took him out, and he laid in the sun. It was like his favorite thing to do. He laid in the sun. And then I was out with my girl cat. I took her in, and all of a sudden I was going to pick him up to take him, and all of a sudden he starts convulsing, and he starts like just convulsing. I was like, oh, this is it. And so it was an incredible experience. It was about an hour that I laid with him on the concrete, and I actually just talked to him, and I actually just helped him pass. And I was like, Duke, it's okay. It's all right. You're all right. I'm right here. I'm sure that your sister's on the other side waiting for you. I was so calm, and it felt so natural for me. Mm-hmm. And so then he started doing that agonal breathing that they do at the end, which I had no idea what it was. It's not painful. What it is actually the body is completely shutting down, and it's the heart just trying to get it going again. But I didn't know that until afterwards, when I talked to the vet. But what I did was I filmed I filmed that, because I didn't know what was going on. I wanted to be able to show the vet. And that was actually turned out to be the last minute of his life. And so that footage is so precious to me, because then all of a sudden he went, oh, and then he was gone. And then when I played the video back afterwards, and then I actually let him sit there for a minute. I brought out Anya, because Anya was his friend, and I wanted her to see that he was gone, so that
That's
she
the
wouldn't.
other cat.
Yeah. I wanted her to see. And when I played the video back, it was only a minute. Toward the middle of the video, all of a sudden I have like 3 or 4 chimes on my porch, and we were near the porch. There was no wind. They all of a sudden just started going crazy. The chimes just went crazy, crazy, crazy. He took his last breath, and they stopped.
Wow.
And I have chills now, just because I knew that what that was his his family coming to get him, that I was
Wow.
handing him off. I mean, it brings up tears for me because
Mhm.
then a couple days later, there was this brown butterfly that I saw in the yard, and I went up to it and I was like, Duke, and I put my finger there, and the butterfly stepped on my finger and just stayed there on
Oh,
my finger for moments and moments and moments, and just like wouldn't leave. And then a few weeks later, I had this amazing pet psychic, and I wanted to know that he was okay on the other side. And I also wanted to, hear about Anya. And immediately she said, he's going to come to you in the form of a butterfly. And I was like, oh my God, he already did. And then she also said, he wants you to know that what you did to help hand him off to the other side. She knew nothing. She didn't even see a picture of him. She knew nothing about him except that he had passed. She said, he wants you to know that what you did to hand him over to the other side was it was just so perfect for him. And that he's so grateful to you for being there to herald
mm,
him back over through the veil. And the whole time I was doing it, I've never been that close to the veil. I could feel it.
mm,
And I buried him and I came in and I had to just lay down because I knew I had been through a major initiation. Like it had been um, I hate to say a test, it was an initiation. It was to see, can you handle taking someone to the point where they're stepping through to the other side? Can you
mm.
hold that?
Yeah.
And then I knew why it did not happen when Harold was here, because I was supposed to go through that on my own. It was my initiation into um, a different part of me coming online. And there's been a much bigger sense of the medicine woman in me that has come online since that point, which is now what, a year and 14 months ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
boy, we just like, again, like it's the energetic breadcrumbs. I don't know anything except that I'm supposed to move in a certain direction. And it doesn't mean sometimes there isn't fear, but there's also what I allow is the faith and the courage, because the courage cloak doesn't mean that there isn't a fear cloak
Yeah.
underneath it, right? But we
For
still
sure.
just, we can choose always to let that part of us lead the way. So, hmm,
Yeah. Thank you
I
for
miss my
sharing
Dookie.
that.
I really do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that story. For a couple of different reasons. One of them is, our society doesn't deal super well with death. We've lost connection with what it means to die. Because again, we are spirits in a human body. So we're just, some people call it going home to God, going to heaven, whatever you want to call it. I see it often as the soul continuing a journey of some sort.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
sometimes the other pieces of their soul in different timelines, like in the same life. Sometimes I've also seen it where the soul, the piece of that soul or that timeline waits until this, all
Mhm,
timelines are done for that being,
mhm.
and then they go. I think there's so many different ways that it can go. But there's something called a death doula, and our friend Amy Michelle is a
Yes.
death doula, and she helps animals transition, and she's been there for human transitions too.
Mhm.
So there's one final story that feels like it wants to come through, and again, something that I would have never done in the past, never even thought about doing in the past, but now I do. There was a morning that I had the kids in the car. We were about to leave the neighborhood to go to school, and 3 deer ran across the road. And when they did, a car hit one of them, and we saw it. And I, I just knew that I needed to stop the car and go be
Mm.
with that deer. So, long story short, kids and I get out, we go over there. It is injured for sure. And then another man comes along and pulls it closer to the curb, kind of off the street. But I am, even before he came, and then once he came, I was sitting there just petting the deer the
Mm.
whole time, just petting it, petting it, petting it. And as I was doing it, I was just realizing how disconnected we've all become from death, because no one this one man stopped. His name was David. I remember that. His name was David. He stopped, but I genuinely think he just stopped to move the animal off the side of the road. But as I'm sitting there petting it, and beautiful David stayed the whole time, my kids are standing there. As I'm petting it, at one point, I had the thought, I wonder if its soul just left its body. It was still breathing. At that same time, my son goes, "Oh, it just died." And I saw it still breathing, and I was like, "Oh," and the guy said, "Oh no, he's still breathing. It's not dead yet." And I said, "But what you felt was its spirit leaving the body, because I also felt it right before then."
Wow.
And so we were there. We were there. It felt loved and comforted. And I'm not saying that every single thing that dies obviously needs to feel love and comfort and be heralded to the other side. I do not mean that. But after that experience, it was my first experience, anything like that. The first time that there was no part of me that cared about all the cars that were driving around, again, with nobody stopping but David. And again, I wouldn't have stopped. Perhaps me now seeing the situation would have just said, "Okay, someone's there." But most of the time, nobody would have stopped for this deer that was dying in the middle of the road, right? So anyway, it's just, disconnected. We've just become disconnected. And so anyway, that summer, I'm not sure what was happening at that entrance, but no more than 3 deer died within a pretty quick succession in that area. I mean, no less is what I meant. And there was this one deer that was killed, that was pregnant, and you could see how pregnant she was. And when I pulled in and I saw her, immediately I felt her soul. I felt that she was frantic. I felt that she wanted to know where her baby was. And so I helped her transition. I talked to her. I was like, "No, your baby's already transitioned. Your baby's waiting for you." And I helped her transition. And it was an incredible experience, because what wants to be said here? When we get back to who we really are and we uncover more of ourselves, we just become more in tune with our humanity, which is connected to all living things, knowing that they are all a part of God.
Right.
Thank you so much, genuinely, for being here, for sharing your time, for sharing your stories. And if someone does want to reach out to you, I will have your information in the show notes, but where's the best place for them to reach out to you?
So probably the easiest way to find me is on Instagram. My handle is Linda Chayes, LindaChayes. And if you are not an IG person, if you reach out to Tiffany, she will know how to hunt me down in other ways. And I would look forward to any kind of beautiful conversations with anyone that is feeling called after our time together here. Tiffany, I've had such a great time conversing with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I just love storytelling, and there's so much medicine when we tell our stories, when we tell our life stories.
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely.
just the way that you and I allowed this conversation to just flow. I mean, I definitely had an idea in my head of the types of, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be just fun and really light conversation about signs." We've been all over the place.
We have been all over the place, and just putting it out there for another podcast that I am also a big believer in not buying into the aging program.
Yes.
That is right. The aging program that has hit that all of us, especially women, but like I am getting ready to turn 68. I have no intention of slowing down or stopping or not doing something because, oh, you're too old to do that or you, whatever. We have so much medicine. And it's when you
Mhm.
said the word medicine, we have so
Yeah.
much medicine if we're willing to be authentic and open and
Yes.
transparent. And I think that's just the biggest thing that I could say to everyone in leaving is that the more that you can open the doors of your castle and the more that you can open your heart to your true authentic self, the better it is for all of us on the planet because we all need every one of us. So,
100%. 100%. I totally agree.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank
And I
you.
hope you have an absolutely beautiful day. Thank
I
you.
will. Thanks so much.
If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe and leave a review so others can find the show too. Your support helps this community grow and brings more voices into the conversation. Plus, I would love to hear your biggest takeaway. Thank you so much.